the meeting for the rising juniors. We're already looking ahead to next year. This is a meeting to discuss aspects of the IB program in our diploma program for rising juniors. It's great to see faculty, staff, administration who have been through some of these before, and people that have been on since the beginning. And I'm interested in hearing from those of you that have been on since the beginning about what you've noticed that has changed in the program. We have made some incremental changes based on the needs of our students that we think have been effective. And we make those changes based on your input. So that line of dialogue is always open. I hope you know that. All right, so the agenda basically tonight is just to discuss generally the IB education, what it is, our vision and mission. If you have your cameras around, or if you want to do a screen grab on your whatever you're watching this on, we'll go over some acronyms that'll be helpful if you have them handy. We'll discuss our course offerings, what we have and what we are presenting to our sophomores when we meet with them in January. A little bit of our ATLs and assessment, how we approach success. A little bit of a discussion about the two approaches to the IB classes. A big discussion about college and the IB, which this is kind of something new now that we have input from students that have graduated, so we can share some of that good news with you. An overview of our data so far that we've collected, a discussion of the core of the IB program, and then I'm going to give you a couple sample schedules. Okay, so generally an IB education is a celebration of how we work together and construct meaning to make sense of the world. We ask, do, and think, and we are a community. We're going to see that word a lot. We have open democratic classrooms where student experience is valued as a source, and we are reflective, and we empower our young people based on long-term projects, planning, and collaboration to work independently and in collaboration to solve problems. And we interact with global challenges through inquiry and open-ended discussion and understanding that there's not always one easy answer for everything. And generally IB was started, just a general history in the 60s as a way to formalize global educational systems from around the world, especially among communities of families that maybe traveled, whether it was diplomatic or through the UN or through military service, and try in a way to systemize those differing forms of education to offer an overall view of candidates going into college, so that colleges could see, from one perspective, how students around the world have interacted with their education. Okay, when I jumped on 4 or 5 years ago, my first impulse was to look at our vision and mission statements from our community perspective, and also look at the IB vision and mission. And immediately I saw parallels, and I kind of color coded them. As soon as I started this process, I color coded everything to help me. And you could see from the beginning that our vision and mission from both the district and the global IB level really aligned. It's almost like, part and parcel of the same perspective. So, I thought, wouldn't it be nice if we had a shared vision for Greenberg's entrance into the IB stage? So this is our sort of IB Greenberg vision statement: is a community of globally engaged thinkers, questioners, and leaders making a meaningful and inquiry-based impact on the world every day. And if you know the community of students that we teach and live with, you know that this defines them, this describes them. These are, such an amazing and inspiring group of young people that I am so happy to be able to interact with every day. All right, so moving forward, this is where I mentioned this idea of if you have a camera, these are, IB is very acronym heavy. So if you have your cell phone and you want to take a picture of this might be helpful for you. We're not going to talk about all of these in depth tonight, but just moving forward, it's nice if you have a little glossary. So yeah, those are the IB acronyms. All right. Okay, so let's get into our course offerings. I've highlighted in red what have been proposed this year from our various departments. Once Mr. Brady in October reached out and asked to give ideas for what they wanted to see in the 2022-23 academic year. So you'll notice that IB calls them groups. We know them as subjects or content areas. So group 1 is our language and literature offering. Group 2, we've added Mandarin this year, this at the ab initio level. I should say ab initio. Group 3, we had some suggestions for courses this year in terms of world religion and global politics. I'll speak more about that in a moment. Group 4 is our sciences. We currently offer environmental systems and chemistry at the SL level. We have suggestions for computer science and design. Group 5 are our math offerings, applications and interpretations and analysis and approaches. I can speak to that a little bit more if we have questions about how IB approaches math and how that sequences from high school into college. And then group 6, we have offerings in visual arts and music using band or chorus. So basically, we're going to have a meet with all of the rising juniors in January, and we will offer them, we'll show them our course offerings and along with the new suggested courses. And hopefully, if there's enough interest, we will run those as new additions to our IB catalog next year. And offers a little bit of variety and a little bit of a unique approach where we can tailor every student's schedule to their unique abilities, strengths. All right. So as you saw, the courses that IB offers are graded on a scale of 1 to, a no grade. Well, we haven't had any of these, but from very poor to excellent. But please keep in mind, and this is important, that what you see on a report card will not be changed. You'll still have a grade out of 100%. And not to get too much into the weeds with this, we'll talk a little bit about assessment later, but all of the various IB assessments have their own rubrics and grading formulas. And basically in the classroom, when students do practice assessment or what they call mocks or practice lab reports, the teachers are giving them a view of what those criteria are and a grade based on the criteria. But ultimately, like I said, so the students know exactly how will be assessed and where areas they need to improve. But the report card grade that you'll see is out of 100. Now, and there's a reason for that. We're just not used to seeing grades on a scale like this. So, if you were to do the math and think that these, you divide 7 or 6 or 5 by 100, it doesn't work like that. And I'll show you exactly why how that works out in a second. So that's kind of why we decided not to use these marks on the report cards, because they don't really correlate to a good understanding of where students are. And so, like I said, I'll get to that in a moment, and I hope you see why. So before we move, let's use this as an opportunity for first round of questions. So is there anything anyone wants to, and I can't see anybody. So is there any questions? Yeah, please.
I have a question. Good evening, Mr. Rounds. And I missed some of the course selection conversation because I'm at work, but I'm wondering if you offer IB physics, and if not, why not?
We don't offer IB physics. We sent out an email to teachers in October asking for potential new course offerings. So that's why you see the ones in red were offerings that teachers submitted as something that they might want to teach. And that will end up in the discussion with the rising juniors in January. So if we get enough of a population, we can run them. So that's how these courses were determined. There currently is no IB physics offering.
Thank you for clarifying. So just to understand, are you saying that the courses are offered based off of who wants to teach them, not what the students need?
No, these were based on department. So if a department recognized the need for a certain class, then they would have submitted that for consideration.
Okay, so the current sciences that are available are only environmental chemistry, computer science, and design. But you do have a cohort of kids that have taken already taken chemistry or taking honors chemistry this year.
Yeah.
So we would be repeating that issue of having students take high levels of chemistry for 3 years in a row, as opposed to offering them physics.
Yeah, and that their background in chemistry would be important because our SL offerings are 1 year. So that would most likely lead to success in that class, which would, when we talk about this in a second, will be helpful when they go to earn college credit. But as you can see, sciences, all the classes we have, sciences are the ones that we have the most offerings. So based on the needs of all of our students, the entire student body, this is what we have as a course offering.
Yeah, but so inevitably a child would not be able to do diploma program if they'd like to take physics.
No, that would not be the path. And I'm going to get to that in a few minutes. But no, the diploma program, the entire diploma program, and parents might not know what that means. So I'm going to get into what that designation means in a moment. But that probably would not be the path that they should take.
Can I? My second question. No, I want to finish my second question. My second question is about mathematics.
Mm-hmm.
So maybe, and it could be that I don't understand yet how the mathematics in IB works. There only one type of mathematics for IB, SL and HL, or are they different types?
SL refers to the amount of hours that go into what IB expects. So applications and interpretations and analysis and approaches each have an SL and HL level. So there's 4.
Okay, but it's not like what we're used to, which is like algebra or any of those topics. And
that's a conversation that's a little bit bigger than me at this point. As we look at our mathematics pathways, and that's a process I know that has already started. But in terms of our IB offerings, that's a conversation that's a little bit out of my purview at this point.
And then my last question is why we're not offering this type of informational for students that are younger than rising juniors, because I know myself, I barged into other IB other classes meetings because I wanted to find out more information. And I do know that class offerings change every year, but the fact that you don't offer physics in the IB level, even at least on the SL level, is a major concern, at least for me as a parent. Mm-hmm. And I would have loved to have known that this probably wouldn't have been offered back, in 9th grade. So I'm just a little concerned about that. I've heard other parents of students in younger grades ask and inquire about this sort of informational, and I don't think it should just be left for rising juniors. So that's all. I just wanted to share that.
And I understand, and these conversations actually do happen in the classroom. These our pathways are determined based on recommendations and student interest, where they want to go, whether it's 8th, 9th, 10th grade into the DP program. So those conversations about pathways are happening in the classrooms and are happening in class meetings. So like I said, in January, not just with the rising juniors, but each of the classes meet with administration and guidance throughout the year and have these conversations.
I think that's great. I do think that families and parents also need to be involved. Adolescents, by nature of their development, definitely don't always think about all the pieces that are involved. And it's important for me as a parent and our family that our family and the parent unit is involved in the planning and guidance and education of our children. So I appreciate that. I think you're doing great, Mr. Rounds, but I just want to be clear that parents have to be involved, and we have to know what options there are. If you don't offer certain things, children won't know to ask for it. So if children don't understand the benefits of having something like physics in their high school level experience and understanding and further exploration into science, they won't know to ask for it if it's not offered.
I appreciate that. Thank you so much.
Mr. Rounds, if you don't mind, I would just like to interject.
Sure, thank you.
Yeah, no problem. And this isn't to say that we're gonna offer IB physics, Ms. Mayor, so don't get too excited. But that I just did want to point out that that was one of the adjustments that we made this year with IB, is taking our science courses and instead of offering them over a 2-year period, offering them in a 1-year period. That way, if we do have a student that would like to pursue a Regents course and they've already gotten their science IB credit, then they have that option senior year. So we do like take the feedback and we see what adjustments we can make in terms of IB. That way we can provide the best opportunity for all of our students. So your feedback, it is being heard, and we're doing the best we can to make sure that our students have the opportunity to be as successful as possible.
Thank you so
Can I
much.
just ask a question about, and it's because Tracy brought up the piece about curriculum, about chemistry, just so that I understand the difference between the curriculums of, right, chemistry honors and chemistry IB. It is not the same curriculum, correct? It's a build upon the curriculum of the honors chemistry, the honors chemistry?
Yes, and ultimately, it ends up in more hands-on work that results in what IB calls the IA, which is like a longer lab process, lab assignment that's guided by the chemistry teacher, and they're pretty in depth. So it's very helpful to have the entry-level chemistry chops before you get into that. We used to offer chemistry as a 2-year course. So it would be, so it's nice that they are entering that class with a little bit of a background. And then when they finish with the SL course in 1 year, they'll have the opportunity as seniors to go on and do like a Regents physics if they wanted to.
Okay. And so they can interchange between both programs. Is that correct in the
Yes.
science? Okay,
Yep.
great. Thank you.
Yeah. I'll get into that. And part of the of this discussion is a lot of this stuff is so intertwined that it's tough to talk about one without seeing how it connects with other things. So I'll get into this a little bit later, but I'll show you a sample schedule and what that might look like, and just to show our thinking on this.
And Mr. Rounds, I just want to interject. Someone had written in the chat that maybe if you could go through the whole thing. Mr. Arnold Treckle is not familiar with the program, so I think he is saying he's getting a little bit lost with it.
Yeah, no, I understand that there are people that have been here sort of from the beginning and that are asking questions that are sort of advanced, if you will. This is definitely meant to be introductory. So if there's any questions about, the general information at the beginning, please put it in the chat and I can address it, and I'll stay after to go through all that. I definitely don't mind doing that. So basically, again, we're just to review a little bit. The basis of this whole program was just to offer a formalized global curriculum that students could use when they apply to colleges, no matter how many countries they lived in or traveled to. That colleges could see, okay, they're taking this one uniform curriculum, and the assessments in those curriculum are the same across every country in the world. We're up to about 150 of them. And so when they're applying to colleges, the universities have an idea of where they're coming from. And then generally just what we are offering. Keeping in mind too, we do a really good job of this, and this is thanks to Mr. Brady and the admin team. You have to remember that we're a small school with a limited number of periods in the day. So to be able to offer our students, first of all, the IB program, and second of all, so many different offerings is just a testament to the work that they put in. So like I said, we try to do our best to meet the strengths and needs of our students. So these are the course offerings, like I said. And let's get into it a little bit. Maybe this will clarify. So how we get through this, and this goes into approaches to teaching and learning. So how does IB education prepare students for college? I'm not going to go through each one of these, but I'll talk about the ones that really stick out to me. And that the first one, based on inquiry, is I think the most important. And this is based on the understanding that not every question has one answer. There are multiple perspectives, which we approach discussion of every problem. So these classes that we take in the IB curriculum are inquiry based, that we understand that there is no one answer. And again, going into the idea of teamwork and collaboration is really important. And then this last one here, differentiated to meet the needs of all learners. The IB program is really a way for students of all different levels and abilities to take advanced courses that, parents, please listen, will yield college credit. I'm going to get into that in a second. So how does Greenberg specifically prepare students for college and beyond? And this is something that I can speak to now, having some years in it and collaborating with our MYP and PYP coordinators and hearing about what's happening in the other schools, is that students at all levels, from kindergarten through high school, from the primary years through middle years into the diploma program in 11th to 12th grade, are developing thinking, communication, research, social, and self-management skills. Things like time management, things like the ability to collaborate with their peers. We have amazing librarians that are expanding our resources in terms of the opportunities for research. Communication, I know it was unpleasant to go through the COVID, Google Meet era, but we really, through that process, discovered multiple ways to engage with our students in terms of communication, and obviously our thinking skills. Having conversations with students that have had some time and IB experience under their belt is illuminating. And I hope to, as we move forward in this process, incorporate them a little bit more into discussions like this. But as Ms. Cronin can attest, and as I don't know if Mr. Kennedy's on, but our students, especially students, are really, really engaged in preparation for our winter concert, the talent show that they planned. So they're super busy, but I definitely and we'll have them be on later in our discussions exactly what this means to them. The assessments. Okay. How will Woodlands demonstrate knowledge? How will students at Woodlands demonstrate knowledge? And you'll notice I'm not going to go through all of these, but there are a variety of them. Okay. Everything from performance-based to classic writing to research skills to case studies, investigations, lab work. Students are assessed in multiple different ways. And this is what really drew me, even being an AP disciple. I mean, I taught AP for 10 years and went through all the training for AP and was really a believer in the AP until I got to know the IB. And this is one of the differences I'm going to talk about in a second between IB and AP, is that students are not assessed like this in AP. They're assessed generally in multiple choice and essay, with obviously depending on what other subjects they're taking. But IB is really assesses the holistic student, that every attribute that the student can offer the program is challenged. And it's, I think, really equitable in that way, rather than just, like I said, multiple choice and essay. So to go in a little bit more in depth in that comparison to AP, I know parents want to hear about this. So to my point, there are definitely more opportunities to quote, show what you know based on those multiple assessment models, which as part of my training, I found that the reason for all these different assessment models is thanks to those member countries, those 150 plus countries and their assessment models. So IB really draws from the member countries to decide how students should be assessed, whether it's performance-based, like I said, lab work, so on and so forth. So in these instances, it's really a multicultural approach. So if we do have students that are coming from other countries that might be assessed based on a speech that they had to give, or a project that they had to work on, or a group assignment, or a reflection, that they might seem a little bit more at home with this type of assessment. Second, is this idea of the personal experience and real life situations are valued as sources of insight. As Dr. Fritz, who is on now, can attest, one of the components of the final paper for history, the HL history course, is a reflection where students have to go in and talk about their process of researching and what challenges they experience. And that's part of the final grade for that. We talked about this idea of being inquiry-based. We're more concerned with the nature of knowledge and knowing and the knower rather than just memorization. You know, again, I love my AP, but it's really a lot of memorizing, you know, dusty literary terms and dates. The idea of equity, I spoke to already, that students have more opportunities and options that they are able to show off and flex their unique learning styles and strengths. A huge criticism we always hear from colleges is that students lack basic research skills when they become freshmen. IB doesn't allow that. No matter what the course, students are going to be working with Dr. Palmer in the library on the research databases and have a more savvy with those portals than their peers in you know, students who aren't taking IB. And then finally, this last piece, that curriculum and assessment in IB shifts to meet emerging needs of students. I don't see which parents are on, but I see that there's 18 of us. And if you remember back to your high school days in an AP class that you took, I bet if you sat down and were given an AP exam from last year or 2 years ago or 3 years ago, it's going to look exactly the same as the one I took in 1990, whatever. It doesn't change, or at least it doesn't change on the level that IB changes. IB is very reflective of its education and assessment models and works to shift to meet the needs of students. And that's really awesome. Now it's painful for teachers because every 4, 5, 6, or 7 years, we get new adjustments. We get adjustments that we have to learn about, but I think it's ultimately a really good thing. Okay, so questions generally about what we discussed, about how we approach success. And again, this is being recorded, so we can go back if we need to. Okay, so this next piece then might answer some of the questions that we had. So there's 2 ways to approach at Woodlands. Coded, one is going to be called the IB for All path, and the other is the diploma program path. And if you were had questions about this, this is what we were talking about before, is that how does my son or daughter approach the IB program at Woodlands? Okay, and there's 2 ways. The diploma program path means that the student will take an IB course in each of the 6 content areas, group 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6, the ones we talked about before. Okay, plus they take additional requirements called the core, which I'll get into in a second. It's rigorous, it's tough, it's time consuming, it can be stressful, there is anxiety, there's a lot of work, it's a lot, and students have to know that going into it. Now, that's not to say that there isn't support and that there isn't the social emotional learning component of it that really is guidance that jumps into a lot of classes and has discussions with the students, but it's rigorous. Okay, or students can choose the IB for All path, where they can take an individual course or courses. So there are students taking 1 IB course, 2, 3, 4. There are students taking 5 IB courses, but not taking the diploma program. Okay, students who opt for the IB for All path will earn in that course what they call a certificate. This is, I should have made this like 500-point font. And this, Ms. Rella was in a discussion with me a couple of weeks ago with parents, and this was a question they had, and I realized I didn't discuss this enough. Both options have the potential to earn college credit. Whether you take the IB diploma program path and take a course in each of the 6 content areas or groups, as IB calls them, or you opt for 1, 2, 3 classes or 4 classes. Both options have the potential to earn you college credit. Okay, So let's go back to this. All right. Keeping in mind that your son or daughter, our Woodland students, have the option to take one of these courses or 6 of these courses, and both will reward them. Okay. So I wanted to review this a little bit. And I'll show you, like I said, a sample schedule in a moment. Okay. So I see that there's some questions in the chat. This might now be a good time to field a couple questions if there are some. I can't see. Let me see. Does someone want to unmute?
When do you have to decide whether you want to do 1 versus 6?
Excellent question. So we will have this a full class, sophomore class, rising junior class meet in January, where we will discuss each of these offerings, give course overviews and a little bit of an outline, where we will have teachers of these courses come and give, a discussion of what the expectations are and what the responsibilities are. Our timeline is usually in the early spring. So we give students roughly, well, it's going to depend. Mr. Brady, what would be, what we usually do it in is April? I can't remember when we usually have this. When did you want to have this locked in?
So generally, we would like to have the course catalog locked in by beginning of January, curriculum fair towards the end of January. End of January through February are discussions that take place between students and teachers regarding the courses that the teachers would recommend. Starts to talk about their pathways depending on the specific discipline they're in. So they'll talk to their science teacher about their interests and what courses they think they're interested in and what that pathway looks like. Same with mathematics. And then generally by mid-March, we begin scheduling. So I would say end of February, students should have a firm idea of what classes it is that they're interested in taking. That being said, there's always flexibility dependent on if, they have further conversation with Mr. Rounds or they talk to other teachers. We're very flexible in that regard. But we also like, building the schedule is based a lot on numbers. So we like to have a pretty firm understanding of where students want to be. And that's why those conversations are so important that occur between administration and students or counselors and students and teachers and students.
Yeah. So I was thinking, once we have the discussions in class, there's a few weeks where students can ponder and ask questions and have these discussions at home. They can talk to me, they can talk to guidance, Mr. Brady, administration, whatever questions they might have. Then there is a formal, it's just a piece of paper that they fill out and sign and have parents sign that indicates which courses that they want. And then I review those with guidance and we take a look at transcripts. We do not have strict requirements about average. We have suggestions. So what we do is we look at what students want to take self-selected into, and then we look at their performance in those classes. And then we meet with all of those students one-on-one and say, hey, you signed up for this English course, but it looks like, you got 75 average, like, what's going on there? And, sometimes students just have a bad year. Sometimes, especially with COVID, I mean, is their grade point average really indicative of the type of student that they are? So we take about 2 weeks and kind of like really go through and meet individually with each student before we have the schedules ready to go.
Mr. Rounds, I have a question about the class selection. Where are the parents involved in that conversation?
In what way do you mean?
You said you're going to have a meeting with the students and they kind of do class selection.
Yeah.
And determine, are the parents involved in that conversation at all?
No.
So how does the school get feedback from the parents about their child's selection, or how do the parents find out information about it?
So if you wanted to If you had a suggestion as to how you would like to see that, please, let us know. We can discuss that.
Okay, well, I'm the type of parent, I'm gonna call and you guys, you've all have heard from me already. I'm just wondering, I'll just do what I continue to do. I just thought maybe there would be more parental involvement. And then my second question was, because we were talking about the AP program, you mentioned that. Have we looked into, I've been asking for a few years now, co-seating AP and IB the way that Portchester and Harrison does?
We looked into that, and just based on the number of students that we have, and again, are limited in terms of 8 periods of the day. If we want to have a viable IB program, then our IB, that's what we offer. We offer IB. Again, if there's a suggestion made by a department, we'll look into it, but there weren't any. So co-seating in many cases is the death knell of a program. We are with Fidelity enacting the IB program. So that's our mentality moving into this.
Not to interject here, but with respect to Ms. Mayer's first question, we as parents have gone through several different, our own individual educational experiences. And obviously we're used to the typical regular high school curriculum plus the AP curriculum for in history. Now we're being introduced to this IB program. So for us, especially for me, forgive me, the try to compare apples to apples is somewhat difficult. With regard to sort of offering the IB program choices to the students, they might not have as much of a problem with it, but only because they don't know the alternate. And unfortunately, they might not understand the course sort of progression that they might be signing up for. So again, back to Ms. Mayer's question, is there a way for parents to be involved with the decision, with the students? Because in essence, you're all sort of taking the students on their own. They're obviously 15, 16-year-olds who, are just trying to get through school, and they're being told all these things. Their perspective is very limited. Whereas for us as parents, our perspective is a lot more broader and more experienced. So would there be a way to sort of involve the parents during the same time that you're introducing the IB offerings to the students, so that there could be a little bit more of a perspective offer to the students? Because they're, at the end of the day, they're going to be told one thing at school. They're going to come home, and if it's anything like my son, right, he hears one thing, and then he comes home and he gives me something else that could be potentially a little different. And now I'm even more confused. And obviously I want the best for my boy, and I want to make sure he's making the proper decision based on his skills and his interests. So again, with respect to Ms. Mayer's question, would there be a way to have the parents involved so that, there's at least some sort of cohesive decision-making?
So, and just as a response, again, I'm the diploma program coordinator. I'm not the AP advocate. If there is a discussion that you want to have about course offerings, please reach out and we can facilitate how you want to have that discussion.
No, I'm not referring to the AP program. I'm referring to the IB side.
Or any
right?
other, yeah. So I'm saying any other course offering questions. I'm asking that if you have an idea as to what you would want that to look like. Our way of doing that is to have these parent nights. And it's unfortunate that they have to be on Zoom, I understand. When we first started, we were able to meet with parents one-on-one in the innovation lab, and it was awesome. And there was coffee and cookies, and it was great. So we are looking for solutions to that. So if you have any input on that, please reach out and let us know, and we'll definitely do what we can to facilitate that process.
Mr. Rounds, and I think part of what the parents are asking too, at least for DP, from my understanding, is when the student applies for the DP program, right? They go through the application process. You meet with the student, you review the selections, and then there is that portion where that gets sent home to the parent for the parent to then review as well, and the parent has to sign up on that. So I think there is that connection there, and I know speaking for myself and for Mr. Rounds, just in my experience in dealing with Mr. Rounds, we're always open for any questions or any further discussion. I don't want this to feel like, this is what it is at school and we're not communicating at home at all. Always feel free to reach out with any questions, especially regarding what pathway your student wants or your son or daughter wants to take. If you have any questions about a specific course, I do know that the course catalog is up on the school website as well. So it provides a brief description of what each course is. I know it's hard to see environmental science, systems and societies. What does that mean? What do they study? There are those course descriptions there. And when, I would say February, March, I would definitely start to have those conversations with your son or daughter saying, okay, what are you interested in taking? What kind of pathways do you want? And then if you have any further questions or if you would like kind of a deeper conversation, I'm always available. I know Mr. Rounds always makes himself available. And definitely all of the IB teachers, we're here to promote the success of all of our kids. That's what we want. And we want to provide as many opportunities for them to be as academically successful as possible. So definitely feel free to reach out. And again, like Mr. Rounds said, if there's any suggestions, I know we think, I wouldn't say in a box, but if you have some sort of out of the box thinking or something that we might not have thought to kind of alleviate or facilitate any of the parent concerns, we're definitely all ears.
Yeah. And I wouldn't advocate for this program, and we're going to get to the program successes in a moment, if I didn't wholeheartedly believe in it. I believe it does offer, and again, all of our students, just the best path forward. And I think that's the next step
Steve,
of the presentation. Yeah.
Sorry to interrupt. I know Ms. Huang has had her hand up.
Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah.
I know you can't see. So.
Hi, Mr. Round, thank you for the presentation, and Mr. Brady. I guess my approach to parenting is that I do trust I trust my child that she'll tell me what she likes to do. What I would like to know is that if she has questions about what she should pursue, who should she talk to? I mean, should she, is the guidance counselor the person to talk to? Are they familiar with IB versus AP, or should a student with questions come and talk to you guys? That's the first tack I would like my child to take is, go find out what the courses is about. And it seems like that there's certain tracks that they're on, right? Most kids are. So what would be the logical next set of classes for them? I think is what I would like her to know and what we would like to know.
So for your first question, I spoke a lot at the beginning of this about community, and it's such a strength at Woodlands and in Greenberg in general. So I think by 10th grade, we really try our hardest to ensure that students feel like they have an ally in the school. So whether it's me, whether it's an admin, whether it's guidance, we're hoping that they do have somebody to talk to, and that person, we know that those people are knowledgeable about the program. So like I said, that also becomes part of the social emotional wellness aspect of it, which we've really tried to work hard on with like I said, guidance push-ins. As to the second question, and again, it does actually become, that's a strength of the IB program, is that, and we met as an administration, and I met with the administration the other day. Yes, it's a pathway question, but IB offers the most options to completely obliterate the pathway. If you were to look at the population of students in my HL higher level language and lit course, these are students that in 9th and 10th grade, maybe certain teachers and certain people wouldn't look at them and say, well, that's a student that's, when they're in 11th grade, going to take, they're going to take a challenging language and literature course. These might have been students that were struggling in 9th and 10th grade. I know they were in my 10th grade class, and there were several students that I pulled aside and said, listen, what's going on here? I want you to challenge yourself. I challenged all of them, but there were certain students that, for whatever reason, felt that they were going to break out of that track, that they weren't going to go to just 11th grade Regents English, and they weren't going to take Comp and Lit 12, that instead they were going to take year 1, year 2 Lang and Lit. And there are in my two sections, there are 10 students that were not in honors 10 English. So the traditional quote unquote pathway of honors 10 to Lang and Lit year 1, Lang and Lit year 2, they decided to go against that. Same in history. There are students in band and art. There are students in environmental systems and societies. I think that's the one class we have the most students who weren't quote unquote honors track. So again, the IB diploma program, whether it's the full diploma or it's your IB for all, I think offers the best chance of taking one of those upper level classes that we could possibly give. And to earn the diploma, so if you go back to this, the scoring key, okay, keep this in mind that to get a diploma, so this is for a student who is taking the diploma program, is taking a class in each of the content areas. They need a 24. So 6 courses, they have to earn satisfactory in 6 courses. Now, there are a couple other caveats that we're not going to get into too much tonight, but we will. Minimum of 12 on HL exams, for example. Okay. Now, the average score worldwide is about a 29.5. And also, I didn't include this, but the average passing rate, the average percentage of students that earns a diploma program each year is roughly 80 to 85% of students who challenge succeed. Okay. So let's look at the general overview of college policies. This is, especially as a parent, something that I think about. So typically colleges award credit for classes in which students receive a 4 or higher. Again, let's go back, a satisfactory or higher. And we're starting to get data back from, it's hard to keep in touch with our first cohort because they lose their Greenberg emails, and you have to track down their Gmails. And they're also in very challenging programs. So it's tough to keep up with them, but we're getting data back about this. I heard back from a student, a father a few weeks ago who had a question and then just expressed how happy he was that his daughter was starting SUNY New Paltz as a sophomore. She earned the full diploma. She's starting as a sophomore. Another student came back 2 weeks ago, and she got 30 credits at Sophie Davis. A couple students came back this week, talked to Mr. Smith. Students got credit at Howard. Another student emailed me from UC Berkeley that they took his credits, North Carolina A&T. So this program is successful. Now, there is no firm like what all colleges offer. So as you get into this process of selecting and narrowing your list down, check with them. Find somebody at admissions that can answer specific questions about what they accept in terms of IB credit. Again, it doesn't have to be the full diploma. It can be 1 or 2 or 3 certificates or 3 courses where that credit will be given. Is there a question? Okay, so it's okay. And then the idea here
So,
that
Mr. Round,
I'm sorry. Yeah.
question for you.
Hmm?
So are we saying that the kids will automatically get Regents diploma no matter what? That's the minimum, right? And then they're able to take the IB courses for IB credits and possibly, if they're taking enough IB classes, to get an IB diploma.
So the Regents is kind of a separate question. Those are just by virtue of whatever course they're taking. Like, so in 11th grade, students take the ELA Regents and the History Regents. But I would put it this way: if students are successful in that class, I always tell my students the Regents exams, and they're what we call they're minimal skills competency exams. We're not looking at students just passing Regents. This cohort will be getting what we call mastery, which is an 85 or above, based on what they'll be doing in terms of the content in each of those courses. They're gonna annihilate those exams. Unfortunately, obviously, like because of COVID, we don't have access to that data because Regents exams have been canceled. Yeah, but the point generally is that whether it's a student who opts just to take, I'm going to take just history, or I'm going to take, I love Miss Belfiore, I'm going to take Belfiore's ESS class, and that's it. That's my IB experience. That every one of those types of students has an opportunity to get college credit. Okay. Now, in terms of the diploma program, colleges aren't, they're not looking at like, did you take a course in a content area. They want to see that you challenged the most rigorous curriculum that your school has to offer. Because remember, a 95 at Woodlands, what does that mean to a student who got a 96 at some other school? A grade point average, it's one way to assess a student, but the IB program is a globally recognized curriculum with its built-in assessments that colleges recognize. So it's definitely a leg up in terms of the application process.
I had more of a question. I definitely support the IB program. I'm not thinking we shouldn't have it. I was wondering though, how, when it comes to the diploma program specifically, I know you said that, that's very rigorous. The kids will be stressed out. I'm wondering about the application process. I think it was Mr. Brady talk about that there's an application process. Are the parents involved in that?
Yeah, that's what we were talking about before. I wouldn't think of it as an application. It's more of just a note, like they're declaring that they want to challenge. And again, it's not based on GPA, right? We're going to look at GPA. We're going to look at that in terms of having a discussion with those students. But yes, that form goes home, gets signed by parents. So they recognize that my son or daughter wants to challenge. And on the front, it has the 6 courses that the student has selected.
Okay, but
Yeah.
is there a conversation, I guess, I don't know how everyone else feels. I heard Mr. Maiello seems to operate the same way my family does, in that we talk about things, at dinner or when in the car, whenever. And, the way that my 15-year-old daughter interprets things is differently than I may. And so is there a meeting with the parent? I know some other schools, even not IB, just in general, have parent-student guidance meetings, and they
Yeah.
discuss courses and
Yeah.
trajectory. And I'm just wondering if with IB diploma program specifically, are parents involved in that, or is it just signing the permission?
No. That's kind of, it goes back to your questions earlier, is that, at this point in the game in December, this is just general information. Once the students understand the program and sign up, then we have a different cohort. We have the cohort of prospective IB candidates. Then we meet, either like this or depending on what the world looks like at that point. Then we get into the weeds. Then we talk about exactly what the assessments look like in each course, what the core looks like, what our assessment deadlines are, and the nature of each assessment, what the criteria are. We dig deep once we get a sense of which students are interested in challenging the full program. And yes, of course, we have meetings with with the parents alone, although students are welcome, and with the students.
Yeah, because my understanding of some of the Genesis cohort parents were that they had to be heavily involved with regards to understanding, but of course it was Genesis year, but also with regard to helping their child with stress at home, that there were a lot of just changes with the IB program, going into the IB program, and students, as you said, did get stressed out. And, all of us, our kids are involved in multiple things or extracurriculars. And if it's going to be a change, even at home, I think it would be helpful for parents to be involved. So that's really helpful.
Yeah, no, agree. And again, that's one of the things I thought IB did really well. And that's why we had to have so many meetings, is because during the early days of pandemic and into, when Genesis was challenging, that IB was making decisions on a global scale as to how to adjust or outright eliminate assessment protocols. So that's why we were meeting so much, is because I was relaying information from IB to the parents. So we were meeting, almost every 2 to 3 weeks. And it was because I was rolling out, they were very short meetings though. In some cases, they were sometimes only 15 to 20 minutes, just because I wanted to relay some new piece of information. Oh, this assessment was canceled. This is adjusted. So that's why we met so much. Not to say that the Genesis we met so much with Genesis because of all the frequent changes, but we will, as a cohort with you, meet very frequently as well.
Last question, just for clarity, I'm a little confused. I know you said that the science is now offered in a 1-year block. Yeah. Does that mean that the second year, the student can take a Regents level or a AP level course and still get the diploma. program.
Exactly. That's precisely
thank
why we did it, is that we found that students did have students and parents, really it was more parents, students were like, give me that free period. Parents were like, we need physics. So that's what Mr. Brady was talking about before, is that we made the small incremental change to make the science courses 1 year. That way we could offer a physics Regents in 12th grade to students who are so inclined. If they don't want to take that, then yeah, they could, once they're done with science, that could be an extra period in the day senior year that they would have.
Thank you so much. And thank you, Mr. Brady, or whoever made that decision or made that option. Thank you.
Yeah. And that's like I said, that's why we really, we don't just say this, like we're making adjustments to our program based on feedback all the time. So really one thing I wanted to talk about here is the overview of our Genesis results. So 15 of the 19 who challenged did earn the diploma. 2 of the 4 didn't actually complete the requirements for the program, so weren't even candidates, but they ended the program at, not that they were candidates, but they were ineligible based on not meeting, they didn't submit papers. Okay, so really it's 15 out of 17 who challenged challenged the program were successful. 15 of 104 seniors took at least one IB course. That number is lower this year, I will be honest with you, and we are being reflective about that. But in discussing with my colleagues locally and people that I've met in various trainings, this is not an anomaly that a lot of schools are experiencing a decline of population this year due to COVID and pandemic, and students just feeling stressed and anxious. So the average points obtained by our students at Greenberg at Woodlands was a 31. Our highest score was a 38, and keeping in mind a perfect score is a 45. Our average was higher than the global average, and it was a 5.10, 5.1. Again, that's out of 7. And then just some great numbers for us to gloat about. 9 of our 13 courses had students, 82% of students in 9 of our courses got a 4 or higher. Ab initio, SL Spanish, music, and SL art had 100% rates of 4 or above. So this is really what I want to throw out there, is that I understand the trepidation of moving into a different curriculum and a different academic approach. And we like to say that we're we're a world school, and we can say that definitively now with data that we can compare against the world. And keeping in mind that a lot of these IB schools, high schools, their tuition is as much as a university. They've got private tutors. They've got private. We went to the Dwight School. They get private guidance counselors. I mean, it's intense. Our students not only competed, but held their own against the global population of IB students, and impressed. We're super impressive. So I'm really proud of our students and our faculty and our staff and administration for being so supportive, and the board obviously for helping us get through this and understanding our need for resources. But this is impressive.
Can I ask more about the math? Because I do remember hearing from some of the Genesis cohort that the math, and I think it was the chemistry, was really difficult for them. I might be mixing up the chemistry, but definitely the math. I heard from quite a bit of students that they had concerns about understanding. And I know it's a shift, the way that math is done. Have you all thought about how to bridge that gap? Whether it be like summer, if a student, they get through the application process, you have a cohort of students that are going to do the diploma program. Could there be additional bridging of support for math or something like that? Like I know, my own child took the PSAT, did drastically well in the ELA or reading, writing, but again, the math in this, and I know, in the district, we haven't been super strong with math and science at all times. So I'm just wondering if there's any way, if a child is going to do the diploma program or SL or HL in math, for junior year, that there can be some bridging of
The
some
math
sort?
is an interesting split, and we could almost have a whole night about math. And Mr. Fisher hates when I don't know why, he hates when I tell 6 of 7 of his students got 4s or above. He doesn't want, I don't know why he's not telling everybody that, because that's a tough course. That's the HL course. That's
Yeah,
not
I
the
heard it was hard. Yeah.
yeah, his students crush that course. The SL course was tougher, and that's because math historically for many students, including myself, is a challenge, especially if you want the diploma program, you want the diploma, and you have the SL math courses you're only offering. So the SL course was definitely lower than the HL course, but again, 15 and 19 got through it, and they understood, and we'll have this conversation later, but it goes into this stuff where it gets into a little bit of the weeds, where students know, what, I'm not amazingly, genius level at every single subject. I'm going to get my 5 and my 6 in history and my 6 in English and my 5 in music. I might get a 2 in math, but that's okay, because my score is going to still be at 32. And I'm going to do my TOK in my extended essay in my CAS. So I might not get the perfect score, but I'm still going to get the diploma. And I'm just going to have to live with getting a 2 or a 3 in math. And that's okay. Because again, it's about the curriculum. It's not the one course. But I totally understand where you're coming from with that.
Can I ask some technical questions? I know you mentioned putting up a sample schedule,
Mhm.
but is the time allotment for each of the courses the same as the regular courses? Or is it an extended time period course?
Yeah, and this goes all the way back to the beginning. And I know there's so much content here. SL generally means that IB recommends 150 hours of instruction.
Right.
HL is 240.
Okay.
Yeah.
And so that means that there's courses look very different than the average high school student that's
Yeah.
going to Woodlands. Okay.
Yeah, and again,
And then,
yeah, I'm sorry.
yeah, no, I get it. I don't want to waste everybody's time with, like, if I'm, so they're not a longer day though,
No,
or is
no.
it? Okay.
The only difference that we see is to accommodate ESS lab and chem lab
Okay.
is that we build in an extra period for science that is alternate days with my TOK class.
All the classes still remain 40.
Yeah, I'm sorry. Yeah.
Yeah, all the classes are still, you're still getting the same amount of time in class as you would if in a regular class. There's no extended, like your
Okay.
history class wouldn't be an hour. It's the same as like a US history, the length.
All right. And then my other question is, I know someone mentioned supports. Is there, because I know this is a different year and last year is a different year, but the supports within the school to provide academic support after school on the weekends, so that if someone is struggling with some of the content or for whatever reason needs the support, is that embedded into this program?
Yeah, I mean, that would fall under, I mean, if you're taking the diploma program, again, you can see the schedule on the left, you have
Right.
very little time. So what that means is sometimes that lunch is a working lunch, let's put it that
Okay.
way, or there's time spent after school. Really, I have to say, and it's amazing to see, is that one of the, if not the biggest support aside from teachers, are the students. I mean, there's times during tough weeks where they're like holding each other up, like literally. So yeah, it's and again, what we try to do, and this will be a meeting for later, going back to Ms. Mayor's question about our assessment schedule, was very thoughtfully produced with input from all the teachers, so that, yes, there are those occasional weeks where we can't help it, there's just stuff due, but we have these constant conversations about how do we scaffold, or how do we structure this month so that we can kind of have this due one week, these 2 things the next week, and try to give students that little breather.
Yeah, I was going to say, and the teachers are very aware of it as well. I know I was in Dr. Fritz's class last week, and he was already talking about the IB assessments, and you got to turn in section 2 because we're moving on to section 3, and you're going to be thanking me in a month when, all of your English stuff starts to come up. So the teachers are very cognizant. And yeah, we don't try and log jam everything into one assessment period. I think, like Mr. Round said, it is very purposeful and kind of spread out. And we try and provide as much support to the students as possible.
Awesome. Thank you so much.
On the screen here, you have the 3 HLs, 3 SLs for the diploma program sample schedule. I realize it's a sample. And then on the right, it says the IB for all, and it says potential for 9 college credits.
Yeah.
Can you explain the college credits for the diploma program?
Sure.
Like how would
So history, so we said before, like colleges really look for those HL courses. But that's not every college. Right. So if a student earns, if we go back into the how the assessments are given, if a student earns a 4 in history and a 4 in Lang and Lit HL and a 5 in visual arts, that's the potential for 9 college credits. That depending on how colleges award credits, some colleges don't operate on the 120, each semester 15 credits, 30 per year times 4. But I just heard back from student who went to Howard. They took 12. She went through four classes. That she got 12. Student at UC Berkeley got 9 for 3 HL courses he took. What was the other school? It was on the other slide.
A&T, Kennedy, North
Yes.
Carolina A&T.
That's right. Yeah.
and those were IB for all students, you're saying, and not necessarily.
Exactly.
Thank you for clarifying.
And you know what? And some of those students started as DP students and realized, you know what? Like, it's not for me. I'm going to do 4 classes or I'm going to do 3 classes. But you know what? Because they did the math, now they tested out of calculus and they did history and Lang and Lit. So they tested out of freshman comp. And you know what? To a college student, I know that's what I stressed out about. I hated being a freshman, but still having to take all these basic classes. I didn't know that was what college was about. I thought, college could be 13th grade for some people, and that's very stressful. So they started, being able to take more classes they wanted to take. The students who got full year taken care of are able to do study abroads, and they can do all sorts of things now and not have to worry about, lagging on credits as they get to be upperclassmen.
And for the parent, you save that money. That's a year of tuition you don't have to pay.
Yeah. One of the parents had asked about the WISE program. I'm curious about that too, and also other extracurriculars like sports or any type of clubs. Are the diploma program students still able to do those things like WISE and sports?
Not only that, they wouldn't really do the WISE program. Just to be respectful of people's time, there is a requirement called CAS, which will have to be a different discussion because if you're taking the diploma program, you take what's called the core. And just to kind of go through this briefly, the core involves CAS, which is what you discussed. Could involve sports, it could involve being in the play, it could involve community service. Nearly everything extraneous to school is a CAS experience. So students are planning the winter concert, and another group of students got the outside area by the Black Box Theater outside, power washed it, and got that ready for performance. That counted. Students that do dance or swim, they just have to log the hours. So that's CAS. Extended essay is over a year and a half process of writing an essay where they create a 4,000 word paper, which is about a 15-page paper. But again, this is a year and a half. And they start working on it. The juniors will start working on it probably when we get back from winter break. Not probably. They will be working on it when they get back from winter break. And they have an advisor that they meet with. And it's on a topic of their complete choosing. Right? The elevator speech is you're writing a paper that has never been written before on a topic that no one has ever discussed. And then my course is the TOK course, which is called Theory of Knowledge, which is the strand between all the different concept areas. We just had a 2-week discussion on math, which ended in a debate on formalism versus Platonism. So it really kind of connects all the different courses together. So those are the 3 extra pieces that a diploma program student would take. TOK is the only course, if you look, that's actually in the schedule as an every other day course. But the advisors for CAS and extended essay do push in with TOK. as does Miss Dr. Palmer in the library, as does guidance for SEL.
Okay, thank you. So you're saying the WISE program would not be possible?
No, I mean, I guess it could be, but usually WISE students drop English and whatever history course they take to work on whatever their WISE project is.
It would be a stretch. It would be difficult. There could be some things that overlapped, but you know, you've taken on a lot already with the program. To add WISE to it, I just don't know if you'd be better served in one area or the other.
Well,
Because I'm a co-coordinator of the WISE program.
Yeah.
You would have to have somebody highly motivated that where they aligned, and you know, it could be done, but this would have to be somebody that's very focused and try to execute two things at one time.
Yeah, and another kind of COVID phenomenon. I mean, usually we have these like amazing like couple weeks of school where students are presenting their WISE projects that could totally be used as time where students also present their CAS projects. But obviously with COVID, we haven't been able to come together like that. We've done our best in terms of like having Zoom WISE presentations, which are cool. But in the future, that's maybe, Dr. Fitz, something we look at in terms of like have co-presenters of WISE and CAS. All right, and then just to kind of conclude, so another key component of the program where information is doled out is through, we usually have a parent sort of liaison. So questions kind of get funneled through the parent liaison and then sent to me, and that's how I create the our meetings moving forward. Is the diploma program coordinator, the diploma program students whose parents have questions reach out to the liaison reaches out to me, and we meet and you know, we work one-on-one, and then that also becomes like the agenda for the meetings that we have. I can't pay you other than coffee and cookies when we can finally all meet together, but the reward is the service, I guess. So if anyone's interested, you know, reach out, let me know. Because that's imperative. And the parent liaison, you know, needs to know a little bit about the program, because some of the questions that parents have might be, you know, how many HL courses should my student be taking? And that doesn't need to be a meeting. You know, if the liaison knows that answer that question, then that's a quick email. So that's a super important position. So let me know, please. Any other questions? I do thank everybody for sticking with us. It's a lot. And the feedback that you send me at this email will help create the agenda for the next meeting, where we can target on specific components of the program. Any questions? Dr. Macaluso, welcome.
Thank you, sir.
Welcome. Yeah, thanks to all the faculty for showing up. That's great. Okay, well
Thank
then,
you guys so much. Very helpful.
This is the beginning of a long process, right? And we're going to be there for each other moving forward. Trust me.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, I mentioned the students holding each other up. Sometimes it's also the parents and the teachers holding each other up too.
I really, really, really hope you take the suggestion of talking to parents at an earlier age too, because then, like, you know, we wouldn't have so many of these type of questions. It would be more advanced questions because everyone would know, you know.
Agree. Yeah, definitely. All right.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. I really appreciate all the information that you did give out to us. Thank you.
Please. Yeah, and like I said, this is the beginning. All right, there'll be plenty more. All right.
Thank you.
Hope everyone has a great evening. Happy holidays to everyone. Laser, thank you for helping coordinate this. And everyone be well.
No problem. So it's on YouTube if you want to share the link.
Great.
Take everyone. Good